All right.
Okay.
The Falcon and Winter Soldier. Who wants to talk about that?
I loved it so much. Oh, it was so great. I loved it. I loved it more than WandaVision.
I like the season. I like a lot of things they were trying to do. I don't know if they necessarily succeeded at everything they were trying to do, but it was an entertaining show. The action was fun. The non-action parts were also interesting, thought-provoking, and fun. I love the effects, and the progression of the characters by the end of the season is exactly what I was expecting for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not disappointed by that at all. I was glad they did what they did. They absolutely nailed the U.S. agent uniform at the end of the season. They nailed Sam's new outfit at the end of the season. See, of course, I mentioned U.S. agent, and then I start worrying about spoilers because I'm a genius.
We're not worrying about spoilers.
but overall, I really enjoyed the season, and the pitch meeting video for Falcon and the Winter Soldier is one of my favorites in months. It was hilarious.
I like that. I think one thing that I'm really going to like about all of these Disney Plus Marvel series is the fact that we really get to know characters that we've seen for a long time. But when you really think about it, how much character development has Sam actually gotten to have in the movies that he's in? He has he has a few scenes, but not like anything like really focused on him. But this, we really got to focus on him. We got to focus on Bucky, and really have some character development. And
we got to see a lot more Zemo too, and got to learn more about him. I mean, Zemo dancing is a meme now. People,
yeah, and they took some of the sting away from Zemo, though. He doesn't, because he was almost. It's almost like they're trying to turn him into an anti-hero instead of a villain.
Yeah, I think that's where they're going with him, or an anti-villain. One way or the other, you know?
So because
I think you're right. I think you're right, but I'm okay with that because it's the character is consistent. His motivations are consistent. It's not like they really changed him. He just had more time to explain his ideals, I guess. Because before you just see him in opposition to the Avengers, but his reasoning. His reasoning is the same, and from your perspective, depending on your perspective, there is an ability to it, I guess. I agree that they are gonna lean toward the anti-hero route, I guess, because he has a code, and he has a degree of charming, quick review. Yes, I liked it. I liked it a lot. Dare I say, loved it. The next to last episode was probably my favorite episode. But I liked every episode. One of the things that I've heard people complaining about is that the season was short. You don't have time to wrap up all the storylines. I'm like, it's Marvel. Like, it's the MCU. Why would you ever expect any of them? Any movie to tie up any loose end or any show to tie up any, like, that's the whole point, is that it's going to pick up later in this other thing, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the line. So
you wrap up a story when you're ending a story, but this is the MCU, which means that every movie and every series is an episode in a longer narrative.
Yeah. American audiences are spoiled with the number of episodes that they get for a show, because up until just a few years ago, most shows that came out on television were like, every season was like 22 episodes, 24 episodes, something like that. We've just now in the last few years actually started to get to the 10 to 15 episode seasons and stuff. But like, you go to the UK, they've got these huge shows that they film 6 episodes every 3 years. That's all you get, And for instance, Sherlock's a big deal in the UK. They filmed 3 episodes
But they're an
And
hour
then
and a
when
half
I'm
long
Yeah,
each.
they're basically movies. You get 3
Yeah.
Sherlock movies, and that's your season.
Okay,
Yeah, and that's
so
your
fine. Break them down to the standard
That's
length
still
of an
so
American
6
hour-long
episodes then.
drama. That's 44-minute episodes. Okay, so it's a 6-episode season. Fine.
But
It's three 2-part episodes. Boom, 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 and that's your season of Sherlock. So, Sean,
but then you
said,
don't get the next season the next year. You might not get
You
the
have
next
to wait
season
like
for
3
3
years.
You know,
But
so
that doesn't matter. This is
Wait,
us.
Before we continue, I am unclear as to who is arguing on what side.
I'm
Are you saying
arguing
there should
that
be more shows?
I'm arguing that that American audiences are spoiled. 6 episodes, if they're done well, the story is tight. That's plenty.
Yeah.
That's plenty. You don't need
Episodes are tight.
Mhm.
you don't need 10 episodes and 4 of them are just filler.
Fluff.
You know, we're gonna add this character in and give them a storyline just so we can fill up a few episodes or something. You know, this.
Okay, here's my take on Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
You didn't like it. You hated it. You.
I liked it. I did like it. I liked it a lot better than I liked WandaVision. But
I know I got a 2-hour episode that proves that you you like a proctology exam more than you like WandaVision.
I have here's the deal. Okay. Looking back on Falcon and the Winter Soldier and even WandaVision, once they were done, I liked them a lot. But as we're going along, especially with WandaVision, not so much with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the shows people keep telling me, no, that's not true. Bullshit. The shows rely on you knowing the lore in order to really get the hooks at the end when they're like, oh, this happened, hook. And then I'm like, huh?
Yeah. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Thing A happens and the internet loses its goddamn mind.
Okay.
And I have to spend the next week looking up what the hell that was.
But you don't. That's
a lot of that stuff ends up being red herrings
some
anyway.
people get.
I agree with you to an extent. I agree with you to an point. Like, I agree with you that you shouldn't have to do homework to enjoy whatever the thing is you're enjoying.
And this is something I've been saying for years.
But there is a difference between, oh, that was interesting, and that clearly is a reference to something else. Let me go see what that thing is. And I don't know what that thing is, and so now this show doesn't make sense. I would argue that in WandaVision and in Falcon and Winter Soldier, I mean, I read comic books back in the 90s, but I haven't really read comic books since then. So I'm only kind of vaguely familiar with anything that's happened in story. Like I know White Vision because I've heard other people talk about it, but I didn't know it. There wasn't anything that happened in those shows that I felt I was lost by. There was stuff that I could, okay, that clearly is a reference to something else that I don't know, but that's not the same to me.
You're right in retrospect. At the end of each series, I was like, "Oh,
they're coming to get you, Rick." I mean,
that's not the first time. at the end of each series, I was like, "Okay, I didn't need to know to enjoy the show."
You're not wrong.
During the process of watching each episode, I felt like I was missing something a lot of the times on the way. And you all have seen me post these. It was like the internet lost its goddamn mind about something. And I'm like, why? And then I would get, 400 responses, people telling me,
it's this. You didn't know. Yeah.
And so, once we got to the end of it, I was like, okay, this was cool. I liked the show. I think everybody did a fantastic job. I really, really liked Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I think everybody in the show did a great job. The whole Sharon thing didn't do anything for me, but you know,
but she was the power broker.
Whoopee. I enjoyed it, but it was during the ride that I really felt left out, because I don't read comics, but this is the biggest goddamn, genre thing ever. There's no way I couldn't watch it, but I felt left out. And I've said this before, and I know, I'm kind of repeating myself here a little bit, but people have been telling me for the last 50 years that Star Trek movies have to appeal to a broader audience than just Star Trek. But the Marvel Universe doesn't seem to give a shit about that.
Well, I mean, okay.
I
was gonna say you're not wrong until that, because I didn't grow up reading Marvel comics. I don't read a lot of comics, but I'm still able to watch this stuff, and I don't fault Marvel for depending on their lore for some of these ending credit scenes and stuff to make people lose their minds, because any series that's based on anything does the same thing. I mean, Star Trek Picard did that week after week. If somebody had never watched Star Trek before and they watched Picard, they would have been lost. I mean, who is this Hugh guy that I'm supposed to be nuts over and all this kind of stuff?
What's the big deal with this blonde that just showed up on the bridge and passed out?
Yeah. So
Picard's got a room full of stuff. That's weird.
So if you're building your cinematic universe based off of a comic book series or a comic book world that's been going on for 70 years, then obviously you've got fans that are going to be looking for this stuff, so they're going to put it in there. Mm-hmm. But I don't feel like I completely lost, because it's not. I watched Falcon and Winter Soldier. I didn't know who U.S. Agent was. Mm-hmm. I'd never heard of him before. But when I put in, I just went to Google and I Googled John Walker MCU, and it shows me, it's this guy. He was Captain America for a while, and then he did some,
Yeah, and well, they did that with both shows. Sorry, John, but they did that with both shows, where basically with WandaVision and with this new one, that they put in lore for the comic fans, the movie fans, and then the general Marvel fans. Right? They did a little bit for everybody, just kind of toss it all together and mix it together and spit it out all over the place, and so that way nobody was lost.
I would say that. So after Disney Plus finished WandaVision and after Falcon and Winter Soldier, they released an episode called Assembled. It was basically behind the scenes of the show. It's an hour-long thing. And here's a good example, Rick. The Carly, the main
Flag smash
rebel / terrorist, depending on your perspective.
Well, I love her. I
flag, right?
Actually, just really quick, not derailing you, but like, it was a very rare thing where I was like, she was in Solo, right? And my wife was like, really?
Yeah, she was.
She spots people off the bat, and I'm like,
a very similar character, actually.
Yeah, basically the same person.
Yeah, I didn't know that character was based on a character from the comics called the Flag, because
it was a guy in the comic books.
It was a huge. Basically, he was like he was a jacked up Captain America looking dude, mm-hmm. and they made it her, and I didn't know. So me not having any knowledge from the comics didn't. In fact, it might have been a hindrance if I'd have been expecting to see something else than what I saw. Mm-hmm. And I will say this too, Rick. When you were speaking before, you and I are different, and I'm not. That's not like a knock against you. I'm saying you are when you're saying that you felt lost, I am not particularly interested in the intricacies of the bits and the pieces and the where and the whats. I'm along for the roller coaster ride of whatever you want to show me. You are an engineer and a technician, so it makes sense that you would want what does this part do? What is this thing for? What does that mean? So I can see how that would be more frustrating for you than it is for me. So I'm not going to retract my criticism. I will say that if you can try to enjoy the ride without the questions, and because as you've said yourself, once you get to the end, it's fine.
Yeah,
but it's the steps. Okay, well, what does that do? I'm like, I don't know. I guess we'll find out later. That's that's how I do it. Okay,
I probably would enjoy this show more if they did more like Netflix did and just drop the whole series. So I can just binge it all and watch it.
We've talked about that before too. I mean I understand that, but at the same time, if they did that, we wouldn't be talking about it the way that we are, because you can't go to work the next day and talk about, hey, did you watch this last night? And have those water cooler conversations. If they drop the entire season, you have one conversation and it's over. If they drop it week by week, then you've got a conversation every week to have with people, So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I do remember that you posted after I don't remember which episode it was. It was the one where John Walker cut the dude's head off.
When he just killed the dude.
That was episode.
Yeah, and you posted like so, and I was like what?
That was telegraphed the minute he put on the suit.
Cut the dude's head off, decapitate America.
With everybody, having their phones up, watching it, and
because when I watched that scene, I was thinking about, because we get a shot of him standing there holding Captain America's shield. It's covered in blood. And it's like this symbol of all these movies that we've watched, and it just got used that way.
Mm-hmm.
But the minute they introduced him, I was like, he is going to kill somebody.
Oh yeah. But it was just the fact that he straight up murdered somebody and murdered the wrong person, and
that doesn't matter.
And it was in public, in uniform. It was That was actually the part that surprised me, was that it wasn't some secret behind the scenes thing. It was like everybody saw it and I was like, oh, cool. Then we don't have to deal with any like cover up or anything. But then again, the internet went nuts. And I'm like, you guys are shocked by this? It was telegraphed from the beginning of the goddamn series.
And I'm waiting for a video to show up somewhere on YouTube with someone doing a kill count for Captain America, for Steve Rogers' Captain America, from the introduction of his character up through to Endgame.
But it wasn't murder.
And aliens don't count.
But there's a difference between a soldier killing an enemy combatant on the battlefield.
I'm not saying it's the same thing. I'm just saying it's not like Cap ain't never killed before.
Well, sure.
That's the only thing I'm saying.
Straight up murder. I just didn't understand all of the shock.
It was mainly that it was the very first time ever that blood was even on a shield to begin with. And the fact that it was so gruesome. Granted, you don't see all of it on screen. You only see him stabbing down with the shield. But it was meant to shock, and it did a pretty good job of it.
I did like it.
I have a question.
I don't understand why everybody was so freaked about it.
How is it? Maybe I just missed it, but there seems to be a consensus that he used the shield to take his head off.
No.
Did somebody see the head?
No,
separate?
No, that's just what's been going on. They've been calling him Decapitate America.
It's the way it was filmed, the way it was framed, and the angles that they used to show the body after it was killed, that people just make the assumption that he took his head off. Why are people assuming that he took his head off? Because it's more fun to picture him cutting someone's head off rather than caving in his skull or crushing his chest.
No, I assumed that there was a big shield-shaped dent in his wedge.
He kills the dude with the shield.
Sure.
No shock, no surprise. I don't understand why.
I'm shocked that you're shocked at the internet response to anything. Why would you expect any better from the internet ever?
This is gonna tie back into what John said a couple minutes ago. Why did the internet explode when John Walker killed someone? Because everyone on the internet that went completely bonkers at that were so wrapped up in the roller coaster ride that they got carried away with their emotions. That's why they reacted the way they did. It wasn't actual shock. They were just that invested in the show and that wrapped up in the story.
And you knew he was going to go bad, but you didn't necessarily know he was going to go that bad. I mean, that's pretty bad.
It was totally clear. Okay, here's the deal. I'm going to compare it to something. I'm going to take it to a ridiculous extreme. But to me, this is similar to people pissed off at Judas for betraying Jesus.
Okay.
Because that was his whole purpose in the story. And this was fake Captain America's purpose, was to be an absolute asshole and to totally sully the name so that Sam would finally go, all right, fine, I'll take the goddamn shield. And I saw that from the first John Walker episode.
To be fair, John Walker was kind of a dick in the comics too.
I did like it in the last episode that they didn't wait until the end of the episode for Sam to put on the Captain America uniform. However, I do think that if the Wakandans were going to go through so much trouble to make him a costume, they should have given him a helmet.
and I still
you watched the pitch meeting.
Yeah, I did watch the pitch meeting, but I was thinking that when I watched it.
I love the final episode. My problem with the series was why, and I posted this on Facebook. I needed a better reason for Sam to not take the shield other than just I suck. But they gave us that. Mm-hmm. They eventually gave us that, and I was very impressed with it. And I was, as the show went on, especially with the old dude, and I can't remember his name offhand.
Isaiah,
thank you. Mm-hmm. As that story went on, I loved it. It was very moving, and you may have noticed that I stopped complaining once we got into that. And then when Sam finally took up the mantle as Captain America, I thought it was very moving and it was very powerful. And I overall, I really enjoyed the series. It just took so long to get to where I could enjoy it. Whereas I think if you are familiar with the comics, you probably were more able to go, all right, I know where this is going. Okay. And I can kind of wait until it gets there.
But at this point, you've got 12 years of MCU. Is that not enough of a skeleton for you to build off of?
Obviously not.
That's fair. Fair enough.